Contender Series.
Tuesday night in Las Vegas. It is hot out there on the Las Vegas Strip, and there's plenty of things going on in Sin City as always. But if you're a fight fan, you know what Tuesday night means. The UFC Apex like we are right now. John Morgan, Dan Tom, ahead of Dana White's Contender Series 20. It'll be on ESPN Plus at the top of the hour. Shout out to Ken Hathaway, by the way, back there. Doesn't get any love. I mean, we're out here talking, but he's doing all the hard work back there.
Ken Hathaway, videographer, TV producer, interviewer. He's a man of many talents. We're very appreciative of him over there.
Thank you, man. So, all right, let's get to this action, man. We said it's scorching outside, and I'm going to get this cheesy on you, Dan Tom.
All right.
It's scorching outside. And it's heating up inside the UFC Apex as well. Listen, last week we had a fun week, right? Historic 5 contracts given out. It was everybody's been joking. It's the Oprah Winfrey moment, right? You get a contract. But I really do feel like we're in full speed now. Those first couple weeks, I thought were a little kind of slow to open up. I don't want to criticize anybody there, but I feel like we really got into full swing. And I feel like tonight too that we've got like a great lineup. I feel like we're back to where we were at the old gym.
Yeah, I mean, scorching, that's not actually not that cliche, John. We talked about it last week. Whenever you see the odds a little bit closer, it usually portends for a better night, at least for a Contender Series type of night. Again, this is a different show here, folks. And we saw that, in the beginning of the season, we saw the odds maybe up here, but, maybe someone did take a flamethrower and kind of scorch it and melt it down. We saw the odds kind of even up, and like you said, it actually paid off, and I don't want to jinx it. I'm going to knock on the wood of my chair, but we got some close odds tonight, John.
I think it's going to be fun. All right, we'll break down all the fights that you're going to see tonight. Before we do that, in case you missed last week's action, again, historic, first time ever, all 5 winners got contracts. We've got some highlights of the action from last week.
Oh, nice uppercut there. Pierce. Beautiful. Timed that so well.
Big right hand, and that's going to do it. Herb Dean stops it, and Jonathan Pierce. What an effort. That's a big right hand from Sumter. Oh, Jimdo sits him down.
Oh, look at this.
Trying to throw some big
coconut
shots.
bombs.
Maki Pitolo, coconut bombs to the gut.
Winner by TKO, Maki Pitolo.
That does not look comfortable.
Utter domination from start to finish for Hunter Azure.
When I look at this guy, I see a really good prospect.
Tricoli spins him down nice. Cranks the neck, and there's the tap. Wow! Antonio Tricoli gets the tap out in round 1. Wallace is out. Unconscious. Joe Selecki. Dana White now has a tough decision to make.
Welcome to the UFC, Jonathan Pierce. I love his hands. I love the way he touches you. Welcome to the UFC, kid. 27 years old. He's in his prime. Welcome to the UFC, Hunter. I love everything about this kid. Welcome to the UFC, Antonio. I got nothing else to say. Welcome to the UFC.
So there it was. Like I said, I think we're finally clicking at full speed now. Everybody's comfortable. 5 contracts given. I do always wonder, we talked to UFC President Dana White about it last week. What does that mean? Does that impact numbers? Does it limit? Because the matchmakers have always told us, look, we love this show because we get new talent. The bad thing is now we got to fill, fights for these guys. And Dana said, listen, it's not going to impact what we do as a company. But when we find new talent like this, it does mean that we have to make hard decisions on other people, and we have to send other UFC guys packing. So, man, when you see this amount of talent, it's exciting, but there's a cost to it as well.
Yeah, man, and lest we not forget, a lot of these people are returning visitors, which we'll talk about here in the show. That seems to be a reoccurring theme. But yeah, it almost puts the stakes up that much more. But I tend to believe Dana White if he says he digs his heels on something and the matchmaker's got to follow suit. I tend to believe him there, John.
No doubt.
And with the amount of shows the UFC are having, so maybe if we think positive, maybe they will be giving out things a little more friendlier.
The only scenarios we haven't seen, we've never seen no contracts given, and I pray that we never see that, because that means we probably had a really terrible night, right?
Yeah.
And then we've never seen a loser get a contract. And I do wonder if maybe we'll see that one day. A Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner type situation. So we'll see.
Only hope.
All right, let's talk about tonight's fights. International flavor on this card. I like it. 2 fighters from Brazil, one from Bolivia, one that was born in Jamaica, one Canadian as well. So we're getting some international flavor. And we start that out in the first one. Brendan Allen versus Aaron Jeffrey. Brendan Allen, just this decorated guy that's kind of made his way up. He was an amateur champion, the IMMAF champion, which is awesome. He was an LFA champion as well on the regional scene. So this is a guy that kind of has been building his way to the spot. And it seems like kind of just the natural direction to get ready to be in the UFC. Meanwhile, you have Aaron Jeffrey, who is coming to us with a 6-1 record out of Canada, and he's the first Canadian on the show. So, Dan, Tom, you started looking at this. What stood out to you about this fight?
Brendan Allen obviously stands out to me. He's the biggest favorite on the card, and for good reason. He learned a lot of lessons on the amateur scene, but if you look at those losses, they're all to UFC guys, Trevin Giles, Eric Anders, etc. And, third time was the charter for him to get that LFA middleweight title, but I like that. It shows not only, lessons learned, but perseverance to push through those. And now this is his first shot at the Contender series. He, moved from Louisiana to Rufus Sport. He's down there with his whole crew. He's got Felder, Jared Gordon out here with him. I really like the way this guy moves on the feet, John. He's got really good submissions, and I think that might be his edge in this fight.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Brendan Allen, we talked about the accolades he's had, the amateur accolades, the regional accolades.
Yeah.
And he's only lost to these UFC fighters. As you said, Anthony Hernandez was the other one that he lost to. I think that shows that he's there, but it does scare me a little bit. Does that mean that you just weren't quite ready yet, or does it mean that you're not cut out for it? And I don't mean that as insult, because I think a lot of people feel that he is cut out for it, that he's there. But I think that's kind of an interesting background. But you look at these as, like I said, with Brendan, 4 wins by knockout, 6 by submission. So stoppages there, 6 first-round finishes as well. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. Those are all the things that you're looking for. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jeffrey also on a 4-fight winning streak, 2 first-round finishes, 4 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. So these are both finishers. You said you took a look at the odds. Give me an idea what you're thinking in this fight.
Again, I think he's a favorite for good reason, but I also believe it's going to be deceptively competitive. If you look at Aaron Jeffrey, he's no slouch. He's done his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. I believe he's listed as a purple belt. Mm-hmm. But you look at this guy; he's a kickboxer. A lot of guys from that Ontario region, those Canadians from Ontario, they can kickbox, and Aaron Jeffrey's like that. And his only loss, John, comes from to a 10-0 prospect over at CFFC organization there.
Fine organization with a great broadcasting team.
So again, and that was his only decision loss there. So other than that, this guy's usually putting people away. So don't sleep on him. But that said, I can't hate the odds where they're at.
All right, let me tell you, we always lean to Nolan King as well to help us out from afar out on the East Coast. I asked Nolan King what he had to say, and he said, listen, Brendan Allen isn't the type of fighter Contender Series was built for. He's already proven ready for the big show. This fight, in theory, should be just icing on top of the cake. Jeffrey is a good young fighter, but he's unfortunately facing one of the best guys on paper in the entire season. So it sounds like he's leaning towards your guy as well, Brendan Allen, who, by all accounts, is about ready for this.
Yeah, a very fair and unique take. I like that from Nolan because, yes, we look at kind of the fighters that this attracts and the fighters that can have success. You don't need those big numbers and experiences by your name to get that contract, John. So that's actually a really interesting point. Almost makes the gambling a little more high stakes for Brendan.
No question. All right, let's talk about our next matchup. It was supposed to be in the featherweight division. It ended up not being in the featherweight division. A little disappointed here because I was really excited. We're talking about Lance Lawrence versus Kevin Siler. 2 undefeated prospects. Lance Lawrence comes in at 5-0, Kevin Siler at 8-0. And so anytime you see those 2 undefeated prospects coming to battle with a potential UFC contract on the line, I think it's exciting. It adds something to it. Just having that undefeated record. I know it doesn't. It's not like boxing where you have to be 15-0, 20-0 before anybody cares about you. But it's still pretty cool when you see those undefeated record. Unfortunately, Siler came in and missed weight here. He is fighting out of Bolivia. He trains in Florida, so it's not like he had all that travel. Unfortunately, we weren't able to talk to him and find out exactly what happened. But it does throw a little bit of a shade on it, I guess. And I got to think for Siler, who's fighting for a UFC deal, you better be really, really good if you expect Dana White and the UFC matchmakers to reward you, because this was not a small miss. He missed weight by 6.5 pounds. That's huge. So give me your thoughts on this matchup.
No, you said it exactly. And not only, you said it, expectations, John. I believe he's a minus 240 in that neighborhood, which the line actually hasn't changed from the weigh-in. Sometimes you'll see that in the public shift. But again, for a night of tight odds, he comes into the second biggest favorite, which you could argue, again, expectations. Without the weight miss, he's already expected to come in here and win. What does he kind of have to do now? That question was also brought to Dana White earlier this season. And he even said so himself. It's a good question. It'll be a case-by-case scenario. scenario, but you got to make a strong case for yourself.
Yeah, you got to look really, really. It's got to be undeniable, right? All right.
Yeah.
Lance Lawrence, as we said, comes to us with a 5-0 record. All 5 of his wins by submission, by the way. 4 of them in the first round. So again, we're talking about finishers here. By the way, 3 of those rear naked choke, a guillotine, and a triangle as well. So he's on the chokes, no question about it. Lawrence, 6 foot tall in the featherweight division, which is interesting. Meanwhile, Siler, just 5'9". So Lawrence will definitely have a height advantage, a reach advantage as well. But as you said, Siler maybe a little bit more well-rounded. And by the way, one of these things I want to say about these, not just undefeated as professionals, they're both undefeated as amateurs as well, which is pretty cool stuff. But with Siler, his brother actually fought in the UFC at one point. It was just 0-1, little cup of coffee, and it never came back. But 3 first-round finishes as well. So again, I like this matchup a lot. I hate the fact that the weight was missed, but I think it's going to be a fun fight. But break down the X's and O's. What are you seeing in this matchup?
You know, we like to say certain fighters can be good dance partners, and every once in a while, a good strikers matchup, it's easy to, see on paper. They don't always come through, but a good grapplers matchup, now that's fun. I will agree with what you said. Siler is the more well-rounded fighter. He looks like he has really good kickboxing fundamentals. Looks like he keeps himself pretty well in position, which you're going to want to do against his opponent. Lance, he's got some serviceable wrestling against the fence. He shows to be able to take guys down. He knows what to do when he gets down there. I believe he's a Carlson Gracie purple belt, I want to say.
Still means
so. Maybe not just your normal purple belt. So if we get into grappling exchanges, I'm going to be excited. But I have a feeling, kind of what you might have hinted at, John. I think Siler might want to keep this one on the feet.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, leading to Nolan King, we got him weighing in. He said Lawrence versus Siler, should be fun. Brother of former UFC fighter Bentley Siler. I expect Kevin to take this one. He's a bit bigger, and he said not just because he missed weight. He is a bit bigger, and he trains an American Top Team. Lawrence is a very fun fighter to watch, but I'm just not sure he's as far along as the Bolivian. So it seems like, Nolan believes, and I think a lot of people do, Siler just a little bit more well-rounded, a little bit more advanced at this point. It's just that weight miss, if it kills him or not, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the one I think should be a lot of fun next. The heavyweights going at it.
Woo.
And not just heavyweights. I'm talking about big boys. Okay,
Yes.
Now let's not forget this is that small cage in there. Okay, the 25-foot cage. When guys of this size get in there, you're going to see it right away. Okay, this is a 6'7" Ricardo Prasel versus a 6'6" Dontel Mays. This should be a lot of fun. We'll break it down in just a moment, but we've got a little video package from the UFC, courtesy of them. So thank you very much, and they can kind of lay out this fight for you because I think this one has fireworks written all over it.
The heavyweight should be worried about me because I can do stuff they can't do. I move better boxing. It's better all around, you know what I'm saying? I'm finishing dudes, they can't hang with me. I'm ready for my contract. My name is Dontel Mays, fighting out Bronx MMA. My goal is to become the UFC heavyweight champ. Listen every day now, man. I'm back. I'm finna come through, finna handle do accordingly. That puts me 2-1 for the Contender series. I'm ready. Best thing smoking in the heavyweights. First time I showed up on the show, I was, they had me ranked #1 in the nation, prospects, and I was fighting the number 8 dude in the nation, so I felt like I had the juice, and I ain't had to train as hard with cardio, and I came out there and gassed out and lost. Yeah, after I lost to Alan Crowder, I had to change up my diet, try to find out what the reason to me gassing out, but I switched that up. Came back a lot leaner, faster. Finishing Mr. Sight, it was a redemption, you know what I'm saying? So came back and I proved that I was still the best thing smoking.
Dontel Mays.
When I didn't get the contract after that fight, I understood just because I broke even. So now I'm back. This time around, you're gonna see the best version of me possible. I can always get better, I'm constantly evolving. Probably the dangerous fighter on the Contender series right now. This is the 3rd time I've been. So unfortunate for Ricardo, he ain't gonna make it.
Eu luto para realizar o meu sonho, principalmente do meu pai, do meu irmão e da minha mãe. Meu nome é Ricardo Prasel, tenho 28 anos e represento a Academia Alemão Brothers de Guarapuava, Paraná, Brasil. Eu carrego o meu sonho e o sonho do meu irmão junto, porque o meu irmão ele começou na arte marcial antes que eu, ele teve esse sonho antes do que eu tive e agora ele teve que encerrar a carreira dele por uma lesão grave no joelho e não luta mais profissionalmente. E através da minha vida eu me vejo carregando o meu sonho e o sonho dele ao mesmo tempo. Eu sou de Guarapuava, Paraná, é uma cidade pequena do Brasil. E o meu irmão, ele ia ter uma luta no final de semana em Curitiba. Eu ia um dia antes para Curitiba e meu pai ia no dia seguinte. Meu pai me levou para a rodoviária, eu subi no ônibus, dei um abraço no meu pai para me despedir. E quando cheguei em Curitiba, o meu irmão e meu tio me receberam e ele falou que meu pai tinha morrido. Era uma coisa que eu não esperava, que meu pai era super bem e teve um infarto fulminante e faleceu 15 minutos depois, que me deixou na rodoviária. E daquele dia em diante, falei que não ia mais competir, mas eu fui me reerguendo e tornei isso uma coisa para me fortalecer, porque toda vez que eu vou lutar, eu penso nele, eu lembro dele e é por ele que eu luto. Eu nunca lutei amador, eu estreiei direto no profissional. Hoje meu recorde é de 10 vitórias e 1 derrota. Eu sou dono do cinturão do Osbourne UFC. Eu vou deixar minha vida nessa luta, eu vou me arriscar nessa luta para conseguir esse contrato, porque eu acho que para minha vida se tornar perfeita só falta isso. Então vai ser uma noite mágica onde eu encerro um ciclo e inicio outro.
There, as they all are. I mean, these is everybody chasing their dreams, right? Trying to get in. Dana White's Contender Series, they call it the most intense job interview, and it's everybody trying to get into the UFC, trying to accomplish their dreams. So again, top of the hour on ESPN Plus if you're in the US. If you're international, it'll be on UFC Fight Pass. So I'm intrigued by this fight for a number of reasons, okay? The records are impressive. Ricardo Prasel comes with a 10-1 record fighting out of Brazil, including, 9 of those in the first round, 2 wins by knockout, 8 by submission. I mean, he's getting the job done. He's getting it done early. Meanwhile, Dontel Mays, I'm really intrigued by him as well. This is his 3rd time on the Contender Series, okay? And I wonder, are they continuing to bring him back because they just want to see the right thing? He lost the first time, he came back and won the second time, didn't get the contract. But I got to think the 3rd time, now of course, the others were in the old gym, now we're in the new building, but I can't imagine there's any nerves. He knows what this feels like. I'm just really, really intrigued why they bring a guy back for a 3rd time. And I'm not trying to disrespect him. Dontel Mays looks like he could be in the UFC, especially in the heavyweight division, right? We're always looking for talent. But to give a guy a 3rd chance, it just makes you wonder, do they just know that he's a good measuring tool that they want to measure the other guy by? Or are they just continuing to try to give him this chance?
And it's crazy because it is heavyweight, John, and let's face it, heavyweight doesn't exactly have the highest fence in regards to standards. No disrespect. When you're following from the regional scene to the entry point into the UFC, which is what this show is, one of the port points, you begin to wonder. Now, when you go back to his win, it looks nice on paper. Now, he did have to come through adversity. He got a bit gassed out kind of in that fight. He didn't look great through parts of it, but he did something that I value a lot in my Grading the Winners article, John, and it's adversity. Unfortunately, powering through adversity hasn't seemed to be rewarded. Maybe if we get that mythological Forrest Griffin versus Bonner, we get the loser to get a contract. Maybe then that'll be the benchmark,
right,
like you said, John. But yeah, I think that kind of hurt him. It was a win, but it wasn't the best look. But again, at the end of the day, he is at heavyweight. He's got a 3rd chance here. So I mean, it's got to be high pressure, but he's got to feel good if he gets a win at the same time.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we always talk about heavyweight so hard is just that the reality is, especially in the United States, guys of that size that are elite athletes, they're going and playing football, they're going and playing basketball, they're going to play whatever. Purcell actually was playing soccer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he made it all the way to the Chelsea organization, English Premier League, and I guess he had some chronic hip issues that kind of forced him out. He says they don't really affect him in jiu-jitsu and in fighting, but it just goes to show you, that it's difficult sometimes to get these elite athletes when they're playing other sports. Purcell is an elite level athlete. Now, he was a goalkeeper. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we need to quantify that. I mean, but you're still got to be a good athlete to make it that level. So,
hey, if there's a guy 6'7" on my team, I'm like, hey, you probably block a lot of the goals just standing there. Why don't you just? No, I'm just kidding. not trying to downtrot his effort, but hey, I'm just saying.
All right, let's get the Nolan King thoughts right here. Mays versus Purcell really comes down to which Dontel Mays we see. Mays has looked like a killer at times, but cardio issues have proven to be his downfall. This will be his 3rd straight appearance on Contender Series. I'm leaning with rising vet Prasel because of his experience and consistency, but this is the heavyweight division after all. So, Dan, Tom, give us your thoughts as well. Finishers, guys that do it in different ways. Again, this small cage, these huge guys, they're going to be engaged, no question about it. Whose hand do you see raised tonight?
Great marks by Nolan there, because that's kind of how I see this fight. I'm not sure if Purcell's actually the dog. I think he is, but he is a live dog. So I even went back to watch his loss against was arguably one of his best competition, a judoka, a judoka fellow over in the Risen organization. Now, that went to the decision. He lost. But even in a loss, John, he was on the bottom for most of that, getting out-wrestled, but he was throwing up, guard attacks, which you don't see for heavyweights, especially guys that are 6'7". He moves really well, and he didn't show any signs of slowing down throughout the 3-round or extended round duration. They do a little bit different in Japan, but
10
still.
and 5, right?
Yeah, you look at that, him in a loss, whereas, again, we said Dontel Mays maybe not that impressive in a win. There's definitely a storm brewing there for an upset.
I dig it. I think that's going to be a fun one to watch. All right, our co-main event, if you will. We don't really have co-main events and main events, but it's the second to last fight of the night. And if you ask one of the guys, he'll tell you it's the co-main event. He'll probably tell you it's the main event. This is a bantamweight fight. Kid with a ton of flair, Ode Osbourne, born in Jamaica, now trains in Milwaukee. This guy has all the personality in the world. He says, listen, Dana White, I know you're looking for the next John Jones. I know you're looking for the next Conor McGregor. I'm that guy. And so, this guy's coming to you with all kinds of flash and personality and a 7-2 record as well. So he's got some skill. But he's going against Armando Villarreal, 5-1 record as well. Very impressive. 3 times fighting in the LFA. He's a Texan, so I got to have a little bit of love for my fellow Texan. He's got a fantastic head of hair, just absolutely just curly hair.
That early Gilbert El Nino Melendez back when he was fighting at 170 look, right?
Exactly, man. He's even taking it to another level. So this looks like it should be a fun bout on paper as well. Tell us what you will about these fighters. Again, once finishers, both of them can get things done.
Yeah, especially for the weight class, it's pretty impressive. Ode, he's a very much of a do-or-die fighter. You could see where that confidence sparks from. And fighters should be confident. A lot of fighters have chips on their shoulder. But, John, I like these fighters from the lighter weight classes. Mm-hmm. They seem to have the most interesting chips on their shoulder. I'm not talking about Bagel Boss type stuff, folks. These guys can back it up when you really watch them throw down. And and as far as your fellow Texan, he's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu over there, and I believe another Hispanic gentleman, Roberto Sanchez, made a nice UFC debut. He didn't go through the Contender series, mind you, but again, you can't sleep on it. He didn't come from a big school, was just a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Came and you 1-1 in the UFC, but you got to watch out for these guys. They sneak up on you, and if we're stereotyping regions, Texans one of the toughest out there.
Hey, I'll co-sign on that. Osbourne does come to us with 5 first-round finishes on a 3-fight winning streak. 3 of his wins by knockout, 3 by submission, so he shows some well-rounded skills there. Meanwhile, Villarreal just has the 1 first-round finish, but he does have 1 knockout, 2 submissions, and he's on a 3-fight winning streak as well. The thing I like about Villarreal, he actually made his professional debut in Bellator. Now, those are those kind of local card filler type spots, but it's on a big show. And then he went to LFA as well, so I don't think nerves are going to get him here. Meanwhile, I get the feeling that Osbourne is going to come out and try to put on a show. He actually said, by the way, I know you're looking for the next Henry Cejudo as well. I don't know if he's going to be that. I don't know if we're looking for the next Henry Cejudo yet.
Yeah. We need to digest the current one first.
Just getting that one. All right, let's get the Nolan King thoughts here. He said, "Listen, when Villarreal's name was added to Dana White's Contender Series, I was pleasantly surprised. He only has 6 fights, but he's fought very solid competition for notable promotions. Conversely, Osbourne has a bit of a surprising pick for the show, in my opinion. I expect him to put on a flashy showing, but ultimately lose to Villarreal. So again, he's expecting to see the flavor. He's expecting to see the energy, but maybe not the talent to beat Villarreal. Dan, as you started looking at these 2 fighters, what was your take?
That's kind of mine as well. Not just the on-paper, experience that Nolan pointed out, but, to break it down in more simpler terms when I'm kind of breaking down fights, as much as my heart wants to, throw picks out and get won over by this guy or that guy, I see this as opportunism versus process. Ode's got that more of an opportunistic style. He's got that flash. Hey, he could do it. We're in the small cage, folks. But I actually like the process of Villarreal more, and he's gotten to be able to actually, play out that process in what has been a arguably more competitive scene, both amateur and pro.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, and that takes us to our featured fight. It will take place in the middleweight division. Steven Regman versus Antonio Arroyo. Now, Antonio Arroyo, 8-2 record, fighting out of Brazil. He did do a Contender Series version as well. He did the Brazilian version.
That's
so
right.
The Dana White Contender Series version in Brazil, he won a decision there, but did not get a contract. If I remember correctly, I think he was a late replacement coming in.
Yeah,
so
I think so too.
Had a little trouble getting in there because there were a ton of contracts that were given away on that show.
Yes.
So I almost feel bad that you didn't. Meanwhile, Steven Regman, a second-degree karate black belt, a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He's got a 9-3 record. He's on a 4-fight winning streak. And again, talking about these finishers, 7 wins by knockout, 1 by submission, 5 first-round finishes. That's why, man, coming off the heels of what we had last week and then seeing all the amount of first-round finishes and knockout submissions their whole card has tonight, I really am expecting it to be an entertaining night. But talk to us about this clash here. What did you see when you started breaking this down? What stood out to you?
Well, last fight was pretty competitive odds-wise. This fight, the most competitive odds-wise, and for good reason. To me, what stands out to me is both these guys like to strike. Obviously, Regman comes from a karate background. I'm a little bit partial guys like that. But what I like is he combined it with jiu-jitsu. Now, when you see that, Kevin Holland, another Contender Series guy, came from a traditional martial arts base, but he applied that dexterity you learned from the kung fus and karates of the world into jiu-jitsu. Makes you really good. Whereas Arroyo, amateur Muay Thai, ranked in Muay Thai, although he has submission wins, and he comes from the Marajo brothers. That's Yuri Alcantara, the Alcantara brothers, a really good jiu-jitsu school. He does have 2 submission losses there. So, again, these guys are strikers at heart who can submit. John, I just think it's going to be one of those fights. I'm curious to hear what Nolan's thoughts are, but for me, it's going to be one of those fights where not just the first guy who gets hit, the first guy who gets hit might force a submission, and we're going to see who has a better ground game.
Interesting. I'm excited to see that as well. And I think, listen, there's a reason that these two are in what you consider the main event. I mean, I do think the UFC, the matchmakers, they do kind of still put together a little effort into the card placement and how things are built. They want to walk out on that kind of that fun note, to finish things up. So, the middleweight division, 5'11" versus 6'3" for Arroyo. That is one thing that stands out to me. I'm excited to see Regman in action because 5'11", 185 on the regional scene.
Yeah,
that's okay. I don't think that's bad. But you think about the middleweight division now. I mean, you've got absolute monsters in there. So Arroyo to me strikes me as having kind of more the natural frame for the division, or at least the way it is now. I mean, I say that, our champion in Robert Whittaker, the UFC champion, is
right.
He's got the atypical body type, and maybe things are changing. I mean, Luke Rockhold, moving up to 205. I mean, those guys, those huge monsters of the world, are kind of leaving. But the very elite, they're big frames. Do you think size could play much of a role here?
It could. You mentioned size. I mentioned Kevin Holland. Well, Kevin Holland on the Contender Series fought Will Santiago, one of the few middleweights that's actually smaller than Regman. Regman, that was his last opponent, so it's going to be a complete frame change for him. That fight was also this year, wasn't that long ago. We'll see if he can really make those adjustments. That being said, height's not everything. Sometimes you can have what some of my friends like to call tall guy defense, and the heavier the weight goes, boy, the shots are much more consequential. So we'll see how that works out for Arroyo.
All right, let's get our thoughts from our man Nolan King. Always appreciate him chiming in on these. He said the main event is the closest fight on paper, which is always fun. Both men are finishes and have solid wins on their resume. Watch out for Regman's KO power, but I'm leaning towards Arroyo because I feel he's the more complete fighter. So I think kind of tipping his hand a little bit in some of the same way you were, that maybe we don't just see some action on the feet, maybe we see it on the ground as well. All right, so you heard Nolan's thoughts. Give us yours as you were breaking this down. As you said, close on paper. Did anything stand out to you where you felt good about one guy over the other?
I don't feel good about either guy. Maybe my bias is actually creeping on this one. Maybe that my karate bias there. So I'm actually going to lean the opposite way a little bit toward Regman. I think that his KO power is definitely something to watch out for, but I don't think he needs a KO or a bust here. I think he's got enough of a submission prowess to where if he hurts him, I think he can capitalize. But again, as far as schools go, I've got a lot of respect for Yuri Alcantara and that school there. So this guy's, I expect him to be well trained. He's already had to learn some tough lessons on the outside of the UFC scene. So I'm not confident, but I'll take Regman here.
So, cool. All right. Well, I think it's going to be a fun one. Let's see. The last thoughts from Nolan King. I always ask him just who do you think gets the deals? He's predicting 3 tonight. All right. He says he thinks Brendan Allen gets it. Of course, a lot of people feel that he's already at that level and should be here. He thinks Armando Villarreal gets one as well. He was excited for that one. That's going to be an exciting matchup there. And he does think that Prasel gets one as well, the heavyweight there, which would mean 0 for 3 for Dontel Mays, which would be tough.
That would be tough.
What about you? You got a feeling on number? Do you feel like they scale it back this week? Is the level got to be higher, or do you feel like now they're in this mode of just giving away contracts? What do you think?
Well, I'll say that I want 5 contracts because it means I get to watch a great show, but I'm going to go ahead and go conservative and go 2. Brendan Allen, I got to think if Dontel Mays gets one, and if he doesn't, someone else will. Though I will say, interesting for Nolan to pick the bantamweight, if I'm not correct there. I mean, again, not just for the finishing rates and whatnot, though it didn't stop Azur from getting a well-deserved contract last week, I should say. Bantamweight's pretty backlogged and pretty stacked right now, is it not, John? So it's
an incredible division right now. I do always think the heavyweights have like one leg up. I mean, it's just you're always looking for heavyweight talent. So I feel like if you go in there and you don't just lay and prey on somebody, I don't want to say automatic, But yeah, you get in there pretty quick. So I do feel like that's a big one. So, all right, well, listen, it is, of course, at the top of the hour on ESPN Plus. The UFC Apex is just right behind us with the arena. The fighters will be sitting in these chairs here in about 2 hours waiting to hear who got into the UFC. We'll have full coverage on MMA Junkie. Again, ESPN Plus if you're in the United States. If you're outside international, it'll still be on UFC Fight Pass. And, of course, we'll have full coverage of it. I'll be actually in there in the arena writing things up, so I'll have a full report there. And then afterwards we get to talk to the winners, talk to the contract winners. Usually UFC President Dana White will stop by as well, and we'll have all that for you. Last thoughts, Dan. What do you think? Is it just because it's hot outside? I'm feeling it.
I'm feeling it too. We were feeling it last week. I think we're gonna go 500 for entertaining shows this week.
I dig it. I don't think we're gonna get 5 contracts again. Hopefully not. I think the matchmakers will probably kill themselves if that happens. But hopefully we get another good night. Stay tuned. We'll have it all covered on MMA Junkie.
I like to show my kids that you can do anything you set your mind to, as long as you put in the hard work.
Dana White, I know you're looking for another Conor McGregor, another John Jones, another Henry Cejudo. I'm that. I'm the Picasso of MMA. You'll see.
I knew someday I would get the opportunity to be fighting in the biggest platform in the world.
My goal is to break records, whether it's knocking people out, most finishes. I'm aiming to fight the best and be the best.
You are watching the world's most intense job interview. It's Dana White's Contender Series.
Future stars are vying for that UFC contract. They have a chance literally to change their lives forever.
After the long hours in the gym. After the years of grueling training.
What determination they have.
After a lifetime pursuing hopes and dreams. There comes the moment where a contender can make dreams come true. 100 fighters.
Welcome to the Contender Series. These fighters know what gets them to the big show.
10 nights.
One shot and it is over. Wow.
Oh, he's out.
That's it. Action-packed.
One shot to impress the boss and earn a UFC contract.